a pleasure to be here presenting you the view of Department of Electronics and IT. And the theme given to me is policy as enabler. So we have been listening to the energy efficiency aspect of it, the government's aspect of it, various corporations, municipalities getting down into the game and therefore, acting really as enablers, as policy makers to make it happen. From Department of Electronics perspective, I would say that the pervasiveness of electronics is increasing in different domains and it is now going beyond boundaries. A product, lighting, or what we used to call as electrical lighting, has today changed domain and is starting to fall in electronics domain with the invent of LEDs and drivers and so on. The change actually started with electronic glass, electronic chokes, and today we have a different production. It promises a huge potential. We have been listening to it. It promises larger outreach, promises energy saving, tends to kindle manufacturing in the country and also the innovations around it. This is also one of the prime components, I would say, in the electronic segment when we look at various domains where electronics is making an important dent. It includes, let's say, automotive electronics. It includes banking sector also, and there lighting is again, it has taken a prime spot. So how does policy become an enabler in this case? Department of Electronics rolled out a national policy on electronics in the year 2012, and this has now been superimposed with other themes of the government, with Digital India and Make in India program. The larger vision is that we create India as a manufacturing hub, not only to meet our own domestic demands, but also as a manufacturer for meeting the international requirements. So there are various factors to it. How do you make it happen? When you think of policy, to make manufacturing happen, you need to incentivize manufacturing the industry. You need to create world-class infrastructure, because infrastructure has always been talked of that India lacks, and that is why software would easily build up while hardware has taken time. You need innovations to happen, because you need products which are typical to Indian consumer. A mobile phone with a torch could possibly be the best sold item only for India. It may find utilities in other parts of the world also, but we have to think of products which are very relevant to our own consumer. We also need to check the quality control aspects, because we need to stop India from becoming a dumping ground of substandard products. And when this happens, it also affects your industry. It comes to a cutthroat competition where then your local industry cannot survive. We have seen this in electronics in the ITA 1 agreement, where tariffs were taken to zero under WTO obligations, and generally the electronic industry started to turn as traders. They find it more easy to trade than to produce and manufacture. And lastly, not the least, is the skill set. When you need this manufacturing to happen in the country, you also need a skilled manpower. People who know how to make, how to test, how to certify. So under the national policy on electronics, all these themes were addressed. We had a policy on what is known largely as M6, a modified special incentive package scheme. It gives capex subsidies to manufacturers who build production facilities into the country. subsidies of the order of 20% units in SEZ areas and to the order of 25% for units outside the SEZ areas are available under the policy. Policy has been running for 2 years and there is a call being taken to extend it further. To answer to the call of infrastructure, world-class infrastructure, we rolled out a model of electronics manufacturing clusters. So building infrastructure all across the country is a mammoth task and it will take time, but the manufacturing cannot be done. So this concept was nurtured. The government has brought in a policy in the electronic sector where industries can come together, make a consortia and then avail of this facility. Amounts of the order of 50 crore rupees are available as subsidy for 100 acres kind of land lease. These facilities, this money can be utilized to develop the land for common facilities for use of industries across the cluster. It can be used for, let's say, building roads, for power stations, for testing facilities, for data centers, communication lines, and whatever. We also realized that there was a presentation in the morning which was shown that the basic chip component is still not manufactured in the country, so how can you be competitive? So a very essential part of the national policy on electronics was to have semiconductor fabs in the country. And there is already a proposal for two proposals are under consideration. And the vision is that we need to bring this facility into the country and we need to have semiconductor manufacturing happening in the country. But there is also an attached part to it that there are fabless design fabs, so to say. So that is a concept where you can have designs made in the country for these fabs and then you can have kind of contract manufacturing done for chips and these. Creating demand for such goods is an important part because if you look at other models across the world, the domestic demand has driven countries to lead to manufacturing because manufacturing today is a volume thing. And fortunately for us in the lighting sector, the demand is very clear. So the government initiatives let's say talk of other sectors, we had to bring in a policy of preferential market access, where we say that 30% of the orders has to be picked up from domestic manufacturers. There is a policy, different ministries, different departments can notify the products under these schemes. Some products have already, like laptops, tablets, have already been notified by the Department of Electronics, but different ministries are in the process of notifying their products into the scheme. And once notified, even if the Indian manufacturer is not at L1, it is ensured that 30% of the business has to be given to the domestic manufacturer. So a demand is created. We have a scheme for electronic development fund where innovations are being built up. There's a mother fund which is set to give rise to various daughter funds and then lead to innovations and help entrepreneurs in ventures. And last but not the least, a very important part of the policy is mandating standards. So we have mandated for the first time in the electronics area certain standards. Some 30 items have been notified, 30 product categories, which today includes, let's say, plasma TVs, LED TVs, servers, tablets, laptops. And the last version of this order, the second 15 items included some of the LED products. This is for the first time India has mandated certain standards into the electronics domain. So far everyone or anyone could sell anything to India and our consumer is not that aware. And it led to kind of substandard inferior and cutthroat price kind of products landing into our market. So standards have been mandated and for LED products some 3 categories of items have been included in phase 1 which is going to be mandated from 13th of August. And this largely covers fixed general purpose units, self-blasted lamps and DC and AC control lamps. So the idea here is that we need that the products which are now being deployed in such a large scale quantities, they need to be safe. And also it encourages our domestic manufacturing to occupy that space. There are other schemes by the department where we have put in a scheme for test labs to come up. So, there is a grant being given to setting up of test labs in the state government and the academic sector. We have coupled it with a scheme for reimbursement of test and certification charges or registration charges for the MSME sector, because we know that any regulation which you put today as a WTO compliant country cannot be applying merely on imports, so our domestic industry has also to comply. And to make it happen, we are supporting them with the reimbursement of test and certification charges in the MSME sector. The whole idea is that we have brought in this standards regime for making the industry aware that we need to be competitive. It has, many advantages in the sense. One is it gives your Indian consumer the right to enjoy world-class goods. It stops substandard imports. It avoids a kind of country from becoming a dumping ground. At the same time, it enables your own industry to be competitive to the global standards. Because when we realize manufacturing today is a volume game, once you start producing in volumes, you will also have to export. So our products have to be of the same standard as the world market. So all these standards which we have adopted under the safety compulsory registration order are basically global standards adopted from IEC standards largely. And to make it adaptable to this dynamic industry where designs change very fast, we have come out of the licensing regime of the Bureau of Indian Standards, where earlier we only used to have ISI mark and only after licensing from the Bureau. Today that model has been changed. We have a registration scheme, a self-declaration based registration scheme. There is a list of empaneled laboratories available on BS website. Manufacturers can go to any of the labs, get their product tested, declare their conformity to the Bureau of Indian Standards, get a registration number, put it on their product, and that's the conformity. Which means across the borders we can easily verify if the products are holding the registration number. We can see, you can verify all the registrations granted are in public domain, data is available. Even consumer can check from the BS website what has been registered, what has not been registered, and so on. So this change is successfully rolled out. We have been running this scheme fully notified to WTO for almost last 3 years now, and this has had ancillary effect also, because you need to have as a country of bilateral reciprocal arrangement with other countries. So I think we are set now to see a phase where the testing done in India, the certification done in India will also be accepted by the countries abroad, because now there is a need to talk on reciprocal terms. Earlier it used to be a one-sided thing. So as a policy, I think we have made our efforts to see that while there is a large opportunity created in the sector by various government initiatives to have LED products coming in, as a part of Department of Electronics and IT, we have tried to couple our policies with it to ensure that this opportunity is not lost only to imports. This opportunity creates a real opportunity for our own industry to come up and stand to the call and see that they have space in this whole economic game. Thank you very much for being part of it.